worry about the cost of dental care for their child. A senior should be able to go to the doctor without worrying about a long trip because the doctor doesn't live in their community. The member will have 2 minutes after question period to complete his speech and for question and answers. Statements by members.
The Honourable Member for Humber River Black Creek.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Today I rise to celebrate a family-operated Canadian business that I'm very proud of. I want to congratulate the Primucci family on the 60th anniversary of their delicious Pizza Nova brand. For many years, the Primucci's family has been sharing the rich taste of Italy with Canadians throughout. Although Pizza Nova is more than just great food, it is a labor of love since 1963. Pizza Nova stands for passion, for family, friends, and delicious pizza. And I'm happy to share this moment of celebration with them today. You too can say thank you and congratulations by taking your family for an authentic Italian pizza in one of their 150 locations in Southern Ontario to celebrate their 60th anniversary. To Sam and Gemma Primucci, the founders of the Pizza Nova chain, and to their terrific family members who have grown it into a very successful franchise operation. And on behalf of my husband Sam and I and our community, we offer the most sincere congratulations to all. Thank you, Madam.
The Honourable Member for Chatham-Kent-Lymington.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I recently had the pleasure of joining in the recognition of fishing legend Bob Izumi, who hails from Chatham-Kent in southwestern Ontario. Bob recently received a rare honorary membership to the All-Party Parliamentary Outdoor Caucus in recognition of his outstanding work in promoting fishing, family activities, and environmental stewardship. Bob is known across North America for hosting Canada's longest-running syndicated television series, Bob Izumi's Real Fishing Show, which ran for 38 years. It's also great to see Bob pay tribute to his father Joe, who in addition to raising Bob, his sisters Lynn and Georgina, and brother Wayne, while working 2 or more jobs, also made time to teach community bowling, baseball, and of course organized Canada's first ever bass fishing tournament right here in Kent County. Thank you, Bob, for representing your community and country with so much dignity and your ever-present smile.
The Honourable Member for West Vancouver, Sunshine Coast, Sea to Sky Country.
Mr. Speaker, from majestic landscapes, stunning wildlife, rich and diverse culture, and sophisticated cities, Canada has so much to offer. The millions of Canadians employed in the tourism sector are proud to show visitors our national treasures like the old-growth forests, beaches, and coastal Indigenous art on the Pacific, Banff National Park in the Rockies, stunning Niagara Falls in Ontario, la richesse historique et culturelle de la ville de Québec, and the quaint historic village of St. Andrews. The truth is that Canada's economy from coast to coast to coast is powered by tourism. Tourism is pivotal for social cohesion, and our cultural ambassadors that work in this space are instrumental in showing the world our culture and values. With the coming launch of the new tourism growth strategy, Canada is committed to helping this sector reach its full potential by attracting more people to choose careers in tourism, attracting and supporting events big and small right across the country, and investing in the people and the infrastructure that will set up tourism for success now and into the future. As the co-chair of the All-Party Parliamentary Tourism Caucus, I want to wish you all a happy Tourism Week and encourage you to highlight the wonders in your riding and the workers and businesses that help share them with the world. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
L'honorable député de Beauport.
The Honourable Member for Beauport-Limoilou. Mr. Speaker, today is the beginning of Tourism Week, and so I would urge you to come and get to know the warmth and hospitality of Quebec. Tourism is in our nature, whether in the regions or in the city. Quebec is recognized for its green spaces, its river, its breathtaking landscapes, where a hike becomes an adventure for one and for all. Come and discover urban Quebec, its unique architecture in North America, and its cultural and nightlife. And what about the contribution of First Nations to the history, geography, and tourism of Quebec? Over 4 centuries of friendship has marked the relationship between Quebecers and First Nations who have been here for millennia. Visiting one of Quebec's 17 tourist regions means meeting lovely people who are pleased to welcome you and to have you visit the numerous festivals and events that you can participate in all year round. Welcome to Quebec, a country that is larger than life.
The Honourable Member for Nepean.
Mr. Speaker, Eid al-Fitr is one of the most important days in the Islamic faith. To the Muslims in Nepean and all across Canada, I wish again Eid Mubarak. After a month of fasting and spiritual reflection, Eid al-Fitr is a joyous occasion for communities and a time of celebration. I celebrated Eid and exchanged Eid greetings with thousands of Muslim Canadians at the event hosted by Muslim Association of Canada last Friday. Let us find inspiration from the values of compassion, gratitude, and generosity that are at the heart of Islam. This is also an opportunity to recognize the many contributions Muslim Canadians have made and continue to make to the socio-economic development of our country. Muslim Canadians have strengthened the rich multicultural fabric of Canada. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Saint Charles. Mr. Speaker, a new chapter is beginning for the Patro de Charlebourg. Ms. Carole Pelletier will leave her position as Director General for a well-deserved retirement after 35 years of loyal service. She began coming to the Patro when she was 12, and in 1989 she was appointed to the board as Assistant Director of this institution in my riding. She then became an acting director, and in December of the same year became Director General, heralding new changes for this institution. She is the institutional memory of the Patro de Charlebourg, which will be 75 this year. She is the embodiment of the links between the board, the personnel, volunteers, and the community. She has been doing this job basically all on her own for 35 years, that is, contributing to the well-being of people of all ages in the community. Over the past years, I've had the pleasure of working with her on different projects, and I've always been impressed by her vision, passion, and devotion. On behalf of the people of Charlebourg and on behalf of myself, thank you, Carole, and happy retirement.
Member for Surrey Centre.
Mr. Speaker, Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Today I want to commemorate two extraordinary events. Dashmesh Darbar Gurdwara hosted the world's largest Sikh Nagar Kirtan or parade in Canada's fastest growing city of Surrey. 700,000 people gathered from all across this country and abroad to celebrate the birth of the Khalsa. For miles, all one could see is a sea of chunnis, turbans, floats, flags, and lots of food. I want to give a big thanks to all the Sevadars, the volunteers, and the sponsors who made one of Canada's greatest events happen this weekend. And then today, the Liberal Sikh Caucus and the Ottawa Sikh Society hosted a 3-day Akhand Path celebration of Vaisakhi, Khalsa Day, and Sikh Heritage Month. This is the only such event continuously done in any parliament in the world, and something all Canadians should be proud of. A special thanks go out to all the Hill staff and volunteers, and especially the Khalsa Aid volunteers who came out and made this an amazing Sikh Heritage Month. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Davenport.
Mr. Speaker, it is my absolute honor and pleasure to be hosting over 40 Hispanic and Latin American leaders to the House of Commons today, including for the very first time a member of the Latinx LGBTQ2 community. With representatives from Victoria to Nova Scotia and 4 provinces, they are in Ottawa to build relations with parliamentarians, to exchange knowledge and information, and to network. There are over 1 million Canadians of Hispanic or Latin American descent in Canada today. It's a community that's often not very visible, but they are top lawyers, business leaders, journalists, scientists, doctors, urban strategists, educators, heads of community organizations, and so much more. Their contributions are immeasurable, and they embody the words, diversity is our strength, for indeed their contributions make Canada a stronger, better country. Through their hard work and dedication, this growing community will play an important role in Canada's future growth and prosperity. Gracias to the leaders of the Hispanic and Latin American Canadian community. You're an inspiration not only within the community, but to all Canadians.
That's right. The honourable member for Northumberland, Peterborough South.
Mr. Speaker, while this Prime Minister was off enjoying a free luxury trip last Christmas, many Canadians were wondering, will we be able to make our mortgage payment or our rent payment? It's clear when this Prime Minister was talking about sunny ways back in 2015, he was actually talking about his Trudeau Foundation funded trips to Jamaica. We already know that the communist regime in Beijing donated over $200,000 to the Trudeau Foundation.
That's unbelievable.
We also know that the special rapporteur who will be investigating foreign interference in the 2021 election was a member of the Trudeau Foundation until just weeks ago. Mr. Speaker, there's only one way to get to the bottom of this never-ending story between the Prime Minister, Communist Beijing, and the Trudeau Foundation. An open, independent, public inquiry.
The honourable member for Brampton Centre.
Mr. Speaker, on April 18th, I was on hand to congratulate the Honourable Gorbakh Singh Malli as he was presented with the key to the city of Brampton in recognition of his outstanding achievements as a trailblazer for the Sikh and South Asian community. His service and dedication to strengthen diversity in Canada is truly commendable. As the first Sikh Member of Parliament, his persistence in wearing his turban resulted in a historic change in the rules about wearing headgear in the House of Commons. Mr. Malli's legacy of breaking barriers, fighting for equality, and being a strong advocate of public service is an inspiration not only for us, but for generations to come. I want to thank Brampton City Council for recognizing Mr. Malli's community service with this well-deserved honor. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Flamborough-Glenbrook.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last week I spoke with constituents that are rightfully worried that their summer travel plans and passports will be derailed again this year, this time because of the strike. Instead of offering a solution, what was the minister responsible for passports' advice? Just don't apply for a passport. That's incredibly tone-deaf to my constituents and all Canadians. Even worse, the minister went on to say that primary documents submitted with a passport application, such as birth certificates and citizenship certificates, cannot be returned until after the strike. So if you're one of the many Canadians who applied for a passport in the last couple of weeks, your documents are now stuck with Service Canada until the strike ends. Mr. Speaker, it takes a special type of incompetence for these Liberals to spend 50% more on the bureaucracy and still end up with the largest public service strike in 40 years.
I just want to remind everyone that SO31s are taking place, and I know we want to hear what people have to say. Hopefully it's about what's going on in their riding and something that's special to them. The honourable member for Langley, Aldergrove.
150,000 public service workers are out on strike, and once again, Canadians are paying the price for this Prime Minister's total incompetence. He had 2 years to do a deal, but he dropped the ball and failed to bring it home. Instead, he is spending $20 billion a year more on the federal bureaucracy, yet he delivers poorer services. And to top it all off, he's caused the biggest strike in a generation. Now that takes a special degree of incompetence. After 8 years of the Prime Minister's terrible mismanagement of the economy, his inflationary spending and waste are having a devastating impact on Canadians, including our public service workers. Conservatives will bring back common sense into the budgetary process to ensure that taxpayers get value for their money, and that includes an effective, efficient, and motivated public service. Mr. Speaker, it's time to bring it home.
The honourable member, l'honorable député de Long.
The Honourable Member for Longueuil-Charlemagne. Mr. Speaker, we have just celebrated Volunteer Action Week, and I'd like to take this opportunity to pay tribute to all the volunteers in my riding of Longueuil-Charlemagne. Over the years, I've had the opportunity to meet with many of these people who share their time, talent, and energy to benefit others. They strengthen the fabric of our communities and make a real difference in the lives of our constituents. In this rapidly evolving world, their involvement is vital for the welfare of our communities because we know that times are hard. Many people of all ages need help, and volunteers are there to help them without asking for anything in return. This devotion needs to be underscored and supported because it is a certain wealth for all of us. That is why I would like to recognize all of those who use their talents and their availability to serve their fellow citizens. Thank you to all volunteers. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Vancouver Kingsway.
Mr. Speaker, the world just marked Earth Day, and Canadians understand that climate change is an existential crisis. But our actions have not met our aspirations or the urgency required. We must significantly reduce our fossil fuel usage. A clear majority of Canadians want the oil and gas sector to do its fair share. Oil and gas accounts for just 5% of our economy, yet is responsible for 26% of Canada's emissions. That's more than any other sector. To meet our targets, Canada must reduce emissions 60% below 2005 levels by 2030. Done right, this transition will lower household energy costs, create more sustainable jobs, and allow us to reach our climate targets for the first time in history. To do so requires a hard, legislated cap on oil and gas emissions in Canada. I urge this government to hold the oil and gas sector to these necessary and urgent targets. Our planet's health and that of all species living on it depend on it.
The Honourable Member for Lac-Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, on April 21, 2004, the member of the Bloc Québécois for Laval Centre, Madeleine Dalphond-Guéral, tabled Motion 3, M380, which recognized the Armenian Genocide of 1915 as a war crime against humanity. In 1980, the government of René Lévesque had already been one of the first to recognize this unnamable event, the massacre of 1.5 million people, two-thirds of the Armenian population. Every year, April 24th is the day to commemorate the Armenian Genocide, men, women, and children who were brutally murdered. That was a genocide, Mr. Speaker. Today I stand before you to repeat this word once again, genocide. It's certainly a difficult word to hear, but we must say it out loud for those who are still victims of genocide, out of a duty of memory, and so that we should never forget. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Hastings, Lennox and Haddington.
Mr. Speaker, as a result of the Public Sector Alliance of Canada strike vote, over 700 CAF members at CFB Petawawa are left without hot water or heat because the workers manning those utilities are not considered essential. This is absurd. Supporting the men and women that keep us safe in this increasingly volatile world is among the most essential of jobs. Mr. Speaker, the government needs to either declare these workers essential or end the strike as soon as possible and turn the heat and water back on at CFB Petawawa.
The Honourable Member for Surrey Newton.
Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Mr. Speaker, this past Saturday in my riding of Surrey Newton, over 500,000 people from all backgrounds came together to celebrate the birth of Khalsa in one of the largest Khalsa Day and Baisakhi parades in the entire world. Championed by Gurdwara Sahib Dashmesh Darbar, this annual event showcased the strength and diversity of our great nation. With April being Sikh Heritage Month, I also want to recognize the contributions and accomplishments that Sikh Canadians have made to our country. I urge all members to join me in thanking the organizers and the countless volunteers of the Surrey Khalsa Day Baisakhi Parade and to thank Sikh Canadians across our country who over the past 125 years have helped build Canada into the country it is today. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Questions. Question orale. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Nous sommes en train de faire témoignage de...
We are currently witnessing massive incompetence by this Prime Minister. The Prime Minister has spent $20 billion more on the public service while causing the biggest public service strike in over 40 years. As a result of that, 700 people didn't have heating for 3 days. The minister has told Canadians not to apply for passports, to not even bother trying to obtain a passport here in Canada. How much will Canadians have to pay to fix the strike that the Prime Minister caused? The Honourable President of the Treasury Board. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As you know, public servants offer essential services to Canadians, and the government appreciates their work. We have committed to reaching agreements which are fair and reasonable for Canadians. That's what we're doing right now. We will continue to do so until we reach an agreement that is fair and reasonable. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
To increase the cost of the bureaucracy by 50% or $20 billion a year, it would be another to have a strike. But to do both of those things at once takes a special, unique kind of incompetence that only this Prime Minister could pull off. But the consequences are that 700 soldiers have been without heat and warm water. Canadians are now told they're not even to apply for passports, let alone get one, meaning that they'll miss international weddings. Our veterans, our seniors, our small businesses, our taxpayers are all being ripped off. Now, how much are they going to have to pay to bring an end to the Prime Minister's cause strike?
The Honourable President of the Treasury Board.
Mr. Speaker, public servants from the PSAC provide important services to Canadians, and the government values their work. We are committed to reaching agreements that are fair for employees and also reasonable to Canadians. There is a competitive deal on the table, but the PSAC continues to insist on demands that are unaffordable and would severely impact our ability to deliver services to Canadians. Now, Canadians can expect both parties to bargain in good faith and find compromise. That is what we are focusing on, Mr. Speaker. Merci.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
This Prime Minister is unaffordable. Maybe if we weren't spending $21 billion on consultants every year, he wouldn't have the biggest public service strike in modern memory. He expects us also to believe that he has no direct or indirect involvement with the Trudeau Foundation, even though its donors pay for his vacations. He chose 2 of its former directors to head up investigations into foreign interference. The Trudeau Foundation received Beijing-based donations, which his brother processed. Mr. Speaker, now we learn that the Trudeau Foundation is holding meetings in his office. Did he not know about that either?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
The meeting that took place was between public servants in a government building. It wasn't with the Prime Minister, but I can understand that the Leader of the Opposition, as usual, is looking to swing a wide stick and doesn't seem to care what he hits, Mr. Speaker. There is constant beret of attacks and mischaracterization of information. His interest, again and again, is to disrupt and be partisan rather than provide productive solutions to the issues that face this country right now.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
So let's get this straight. The Trudeau Foundation's donors paid for the Prime Minister's vacation, but he didn't know about that. The Trudeau Foundation supplied the 2 independent investigators to look into the interference by Beijing. He didn't know about that either. The Trudeau Foundation received donations from Beijing, organized and orchestrated by his brother, but he didn't know about that. And now we know there were meetings in the Prime Minister's office with his top officials and the Trudeau Foundation. Once again, are they really expecting Canadians to be dumb enough not to believe that he didn't know about that either?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, sometimes I stay up at night and I wonder how the Leader of the Opposition got to the position of recommending to people to opt out of inflation by recommending cryptocurrency as a solution. And now I understand why, Mr. Speaker. Listening...
I just want to wait till everybody's ready and we can get on with question period. The Honourable Government House Leader, please proceed.
Well, Mr. Speaker, it's because if you listen to that convoluted mess that the Leader of the Opposition tossed out there that was completely nonsensical, and I'll just take one for a point. Yes, the Prime Minister, as I've said on many occasions, took a vacation with his family over Christmas and stayed at a friend's house. By the way, that friend had been his family friend his entire life. He had been at that residence when he was 1 year old. The mischaracterizations continue.
The Leader of the Opposition.
So the Prime Minister really wants Canadians to believe that he received payments for his vacation from donors to the Trudeau Foundation, but that he didn't know. He wants people to believe that the Trudeau Foundation received donations from Beijing, facilitated by his brother, but he didn't know, and wants people to believe that the two investigators into foreign interference are from the Trudeau Foundation. There was a meeting with the Trudeau Foundation in the Prime Minister's office with his top officials, and we're expected to believe that he didn't know? Mr. Speaker, does the Prime Minister take the Canadians for fools? Mr. Speaker, it's clear that the member across the way wants there to be a link between the Foundation and the Prime Minister, but there was no connection. No link, either direct or indirect, between the Foundation and the Prime Minister. That's been clear. There's been no connection for over 10 years. It's very clear. Unfortunately, though, the Leader of the Opposition is looking to create division and partisanship. He's not really looking for facts, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for La Prairie. Mr. Speaker, we were wondering why China was so interested in getting close to the Trudeau Foundation, and we got the answer this morning. Because in 2016, when China was signing a big check to the Trudeau Foundation, there was a meeting of the Trudeau Foundation at the Prime Minister's office with not one, not two, not three, but 5 deputy ministers. Yet the Prime Minister continues to insist that for 10 years he hasn't had any ties to the Foundation. But is he aware of what happens in his own office, or does he take Quebecers for fools? The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House. Mr. Speaker, there was an independent meeting with public servants, officials, and the Foundation. The Prime Minister had no ties to that meeting, no information about it. The question is ridiculous. The implication is ridiculous. Neither China nor any other country has had an influence over our government or influenced any of our officials. Our officials are loyal to Canada. That's very clear, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for La Prairie. Mr. Speaker, the doors to power are wide open. The ties to power are wide open for the Trudeau Foundation. Most people couldn't dream of having preferential access to the Prime Minister's office, access to 5 top officials. This is why we can't trust the Prime Minister to really get to the bottom of China's interference and meddling with our institutions. We need transparency. We need to get to the bottom of things. So when will there be a public, independent inquiry? The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House. Mr. Speaker, as the Prime Minister has stated on many occasions, he has no direct or indirect ties to the Foundation. That is evident. We can repeat that again and again. We need facts, and facts are necessary in this House in order to maybe the member across the way would like to write stories, become a novelist. That could be another career. But the facts are different from the stories, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Rosemont-la-Petite-Patrie. Mr. Speaker, it's now day 6 of the public service employees' strike. The government is far from reaching a deal at the negotiation table, the bargaining table. In fact, the union leader is saying that the Treasury Board president doesn't take this seriously. We need to respect these workers who are here for us. It's time for the minister to be there for them. Will the minister stop doing a PR campaign and do her real job? Find a solution. The Honourable President of the Treasury Board. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our team is currently working tirelessly and very hard to negotiate a new collective agreement which will be fair, equitable, reasonable, and competitive. The union came to the bargaining table with 570 asks, and there are only a few asks remaining. Mr. Speaker, we need to find a happy medium between what's reasonable for Canadians and what's fair for employees. That's exactly what we're doing with the offer we have recently put on the table.
River.
Mr. Speaker, workers deserve to be treated with respect, but Canada's public service workers have been without a contract for 2 years, and now they're out in the rain fighting for their rights, and the minister is nowhere to be found because the government has failed to get a fair deal for the workers. Canadians across the country are feeling the impacts of the PSAC strike. It's time for the minister to show that she's going to walk the walk on labor rights, or will the minister continue to ignore these workers' rights?
President of the Treasury Board.
Mr. Speaker, our team has been working around the clock to negotiate new collective agreements that are fair, competitive, and reasonable. This round of negotiations has been a heavy lift. The union came to the table with 570 demands, and I'm proud to say that only a handful remain on the table. Mr. Speaker, we need to find a balance between what is fair for employees, reasonable for Canadians, and that's what the deal is and on the table at this time. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Haut-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister increased the cost of the public service by 50% in 8 years and hasn't been able to handle that growth. So now CRA employees are on strike in the middle of tax season. These are difficult times for millions of Canadians, many of whom are waiting patiently for their tax refunds to pay bills and provide for their families' basic needs. Does the Prime Minister realize that Canadians are fed up with his incompetence? Will he take action now to ensure that refunds are not delayed? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, when it comes time to negotiate with the union, what would the Conservatives do? Canadians remember the Conservative years. They cut services, they silenced scientists, they tried to crush union movements and action everywhere in Canada. Then they stand in this House and try to tell us how to negotiate. Canadians will not forget. We'll never forget when how the public service was handled by Conservatives. Cuts upon cuts upon cuts, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member, wait just a moment. I'll ask everyone to take a deep breath.
I'm not sure what it is. It's not even heckling today. It's just people talking amongst themselves. It's lovely to see everyone getting along. But listen, if you're not interested, you can leave. You can go outside the chamber. L'honorable député. Maman.
The Honourable Member, just a moment. Hold on. We're going to wait here for everyone to be ready. Is everyone ready? All right. The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Haut-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, now, when I talk about government incompetence, the Revenue Minister is the best example. She's just talking nonsense. When we formed government, there was no strike and the public service was well handled. But currently, they have increased the size of the public service, but all federal services are being mismanaged, be it passports, be it taxes. So, through you, Mr. Speaker, can the minister give me an intelligent answer and confirm that there will not be delays in tax returns for Canadians? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, I feel like I'm watching a bad movie. The Conservatives are standing and asking us to help Canadians, but then they vote against everything that we present and table to help Canadians. They want us to help Canadians, then they want to cut and slash everything we accomplish to help Canadians. Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives are experts at two things because they're talking out of both sides of their mouth, Mr. Speaker. So on the one hand, they give their illogical advice, but, you know, we're going to have the best tax season that we've had since 2015.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians want to file their tax returns, but they don't know when they're going to be processed or when they're going to receive their refunds. In addition, this Prime Minister spent 50% more on the bureaucracy. Canadians are receiving poorer services. And just outside these doors, we have the largest public service strike in Canadian history. So when will this Prime Minister take responsibility for the price that Canadian taxpayers have to pay and end this strike?
The Honourable Minister for Families.
Mr. Speaker, for our government, it's important to make sure that we respect the right of workers to strike and we respect the collective bargaining process. We are doing just that because we believe that a good deal can be reached at the negotiating table, while we're also making sure that we're respecting Canadians and the price that they're going to pay to ensure that we get a fair deal for Canadians as well as for workers. And Mr. Speaker, I can assure the member opposite and all members across this House, if you file your taxes online, your tax return will not be impacted at all. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Calgary-Midnapore.
Well, Mr. Speaker, that minister is the minister responsible for the passport backlogs in the first place. The Prime Minister had 2 years to negotiate agreement, and he failed. In addition, he raised the cost of the bureaucracy by 50%. Canadians are receiving poor services, and outside these doors, we have the largest strike in Canada in the history of the public service. So will this Prime Minister commit to the most basic of services for Canadians and commit to ending this strike?
The Honourable Minister.
Unlike the Conservatives, we actually respect workers' rights, and we are taking an approach that makes sure that we respect the right to collective bargaining and we respect the right to strike. We believe and we are committed to making sure that the best deal that is reached will be reached at the negotiating table, Mr. Speaker. Those negotiations are ongoing, and we're going to make sure that we get a good deal both for the public servants but also for Canadians, because we know how important it is to make sure that we deliver core government services, and we are going to get that deal. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Simcoe North.
Mr. Speaker, this is the largest public sector union strike in 40 years. Revenue Canada workers are off the job and vital services have been halted. The tax filing deadline is this week, and Canadians can't even get their phone calls answered. What is the government going to do to ensure continuity of service so Canadians can get their most basic questions answered?
Great question.
The Honourable Minister for Tourism.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the Honourable Member for his question, and my Honourable colleague stated this very clearly in this House, that if Canadians file their taxes before the deadline online, there will be no impact to the PSAC strike that's going on right now. Mr. Speaker, let's be really clear. We believe in a negotiated settlement. We believe in working at the table. Mr. Speaker, let's look at the contrast between 9 years of economic stagnation on the other side, when the only playbook from the Conservative Austerity Caucus was chop, chop, chop. Whether it was status of women's offices, veterans' offices, rating EI, Mr. Speaker, Canadians know a government that has their backs, and that is our government.
Honourable Member for Simcoe North.
Mr. Speaker, how can the government expect Canadians to file their taxes by the deadline if they can't even get their questions answered? The government knew when the contract was up. They know when tax filing deadline is. So I will ask, how much money will it cost the taxpayers for this government to end the strike?
The Honourable National Revenue Minister. Mr. Speaker, Conservatives say one thing and then they're opposite. They say they care about Canadians, but they voted against the Canada Child Benefit, Mr. Speaker. They voted against the Canada Workers Benefit, Mr. Speaker. They voted against dental care. They voted against housing programs, Mr. Speaker. And I can reassure my colleagues that since 2015, we've had the best tax seasons that we've had. 95% of Canadians file their tax returns electronically, and there have been no delays in paying tax returns. Before going to the next question, I would like to remind the members that we ask a question when we are recognized by the chair, not just when we feel like it. And when we refer to a colleague, we do so either by their writing or by their title, not by their first name, of course. Not by their name at all. The Honourable Member for Trois-Rivières. Mr. Speaker, 3 years after supposedly having cut ties with the Trudeau Foundation, we find out that this foundation had a meeting at the PMO in the Langevin building with 5 deputy ministers. How many charities get meetings in the Langevin building with 5 deputy ministers? None. So let's recap. The Prime Minister's office calls the foundation about donations from China. Then the Prime Minister invites the foundation for a meeting at the Langevin building. How can we really believe that the Prime Minister has cut ties for over 10 years when his ties to the foundation just keep piling up? The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House. I appreciate the conspiracy theory. It's very interesting, but not factual. It's not reality. I don't know how many times we have to repeat this, but it's very clear that there are no ties between the Prime Minister and the Foundation. And there haven't been any ties in over 10 years. Now I understand that the Bloc Québécois wants to find some ties. They want to find the connection for partisan reasons. But there are no ties to be found, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Trois-Rivières. Mr. Speaker, for the Liberals, trying to find the truth is a conspiracy. So there have been meetings with the Prime Minister's offices. There have been follow-up fundraising calls from the Prime Minister's staff, ties to the Prime Minister's family and close friends, and clearly one gets the impression that China, wanting to get in the government's good graces, has bet on the right horse. You want to get close to the Prime Minister? Donate to his father's foundation. We will no longer believe Liberals on anything in this file. Too much secrecy? Never the truth. What are they waiting for to set up a public and independent commission of inquiry? The Honourable Government Leader in the House. Mr. Speaker, David Johnston, former Governor General, who was appointed by Stephen Harper, has now been tasked in the current situation with investigating the situation. And I hope the member across the way is not calling into doubt the character and qualities of Mr. Johnston. He is responsible for the file. This is very serious, not just for the House of Commons, but for everyone, everywhere in Canada, to ensure that this is done independently. The Honourable Member for Laurentides-Labelle. Mr. Speaker, this morning the Auditor General announced that she will not be conducting an audit into the Trudeau Foundation. This means that the only supposedly neutral investigation into the Chinese donations is the investigation that the Prime Minister asked for from his friend, David Johnston. And he will be reporting directly to the Prime Minister. So who will get to the bottom of Chinese interference? Who will shed light on it, if not an independent public commission of inquiry? The Honourable Government Leader in the House. Well, the answer, Mr. Speaker, is Mr. Johnston himself, who is responsible for this. And I'd like to say very clearly that I understand that the Bloc Québécois wants to find nefarious connections, but there aren't any. This is odd because the Bloc Québécois knows full well that our institutions, our parliamentary institutions, are among the best in the world. They are incredibly responsible and accountable. They oversee and monitor our systems and their integrity. The Bloc is saying that there's a problem. Meanwhile, the Auditor General says that there is no need for an investigation or an audit.
After endless passport delays this past year and $20 billion more spending on bureaucracy and the biggest public sector strike in more than a generation, the minister in charge of passports said, and I quote, "My best advice to Canadians is to not make that application right now because it simply won't be processed."
Unreal.
Come on. How low can you make the customer service bar? Canadians deserve better, they deserve competence. So when will the Liberals fix what they broke, but most importantly, how much is it going to cost Canadian taxpayers?
Great question.
The Honourable Minister for Families.
I understand that the Conservatives have an issue with the truth, but I'm just going to tell the truth. And the truth of the matter is that while there is a strike going on, I do recommend to Canadians not to submit an application for a passport unless it is urgent, because under the strike conditions, which are in law, they are unable to process those passports. And so, Mr. Speaker, unlike the Conservatives, I actually believe in telling the truth to Canadians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was consulting with the clerk while this was going on, and there was something else happening, but I might have missed something, and I just want to say to everyone to be careful and be judicious with their words on both sides. The Honourable Member for Peterborough-Kawartha.
Mr. Speaker, the truth is the Liberals had 2 years to fix this before it happened. That chaos out on the streets, this missed service, the lack of customer service is on their backs. 50% more in bureaucracy and the worst customer service this country has ever experienced. So one more time for the people across the aisle, when will they fix what they broke, and how much is it going to cost Canadian taxpayers?
The Honourable Minister for Families.
Mr. Speaker, I know the Conservatives have short memories, but when we increased the public service by 50%, it's because we were delivering the Canadian Emergency Response Benefit to 8.5 million Canadians, Mr. Speaker. It's the fact that at the greatest health and economic challenge of our time, this government was there for Canadians. Mr. Speaker, my big concern is the fact that the Conservatives have not only forgotten that, but that they wouldn't do the same thing to help Canadians in their time of need. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The member for Wellington, Halton Hills.
During the pandemic, Canadians had to wait hours in line to get a passport. Delays took 4 or 5 months for Canadians to obtain those passports, and the backlog by last August reached 340,000 Canadians. Wow. The pandemic ended, though, and Canadians thought, finally, things will get back to normal. But they failed to take into account the competence of this government's ministers. Despite the largest expansion of the public service in recent decades and tens of billions of dollars spent on consultants, the government has managed to oversee the largest strike in decades in the public service. The minister's response? Don't apply for a passport. What travel document are Canadians supposed to travel on?
The Honourable Minister for Families.
Mr. Speaker, during a general strike, by law, passport services are not considered to be essential. If there are urgent or humanitarian cases, they will be processed. That information is available on the website. But, Mr. Speaker, I have grave concerns with the short-term memory losses of the Conservatives who have forgotten that those investments that were made were there to help 8.5 million Canadians get through the biggest health and economic challenge of our time. Mr. Speaker, Canadians understand that when they're in need, it's this government that's got their back. We just don't know where
the Honourable Member for Windsor West.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians are paying some of the highest prices in the world for telecom services, and with the Rogers-Shaw merger approved by this government, it will only make things worse. Now it's been reported that the former industry minister is joining Rogers as executive in charge of public policy. This was the minister that allowed Rogers to raise cell phone prices through the roof. Former Liberal cabinet ministers landing cushy jobs in big corporations is nothing new, but this is unreal. You just can't make this stuff up. Why do Liberals seem more interested in jumping on the gravy train than bringing down costs for everyday Canadians?
The Honourable Minister for Innovation.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the member for the question. Mr. Speaker, the one important issue for Canadians is to bring costs down, Mr. Speaker. That's why, Mr. Speaker, that's what we did in the last last reiteration that he's talking about, Mr. Speaker, the way to bring costs down in Canada is to have more competition. The way to have more competition is to have a fourth national player. That's what we deliver for Canadians. We're always going to stand up for Canadians to make sure that prices go down in this country.
Member for Hamilton Centre.
Mr. Speaker, I can assure you the way to bring costs down is not to appoint Liberal insiders to executive positions at Rogers. And the fact that he doesn't even know what the problem is just shows how out of touch they are with Canadians. They greenlit the Rogers-Shaw merger even though the Competition Bureau said it was a bad deal for consumers. And now the former industry minister gets an executive position at Rogers. With this Liberal-Rogers merger almost complete, Canadians have a right to know which Liberal insider had influence and was involved in the approval process, and when was the last time the Prime Minister or the Industry Minister...
The Honourable Minister for Innovation.
Mr. Speaker, let me provide a bit of background to the member. Actually, we denied the transfer of license from Shaw to Rogers, Mr. Speaker. It's this government who stood up to the big telco, Mr. Speaker. We put 21 conditions. This has never been done in Canada's history. And Mr. Speaker, you know why? Because Canadians have asked us to bring price down. That's what we did. The way to do that is to competition and to have a fourth national player. Mr. Speaker, Canadians know on which side we stand. We stand on their side.
The Honourable Member for Richmond Hill.
Mr. Speaker, economies around the world are striving to achieve net zero transition and adapt to green technologies for the future. Electrical vehicle and battery manufacturing plays a key role in reaching these objectives. Can the Minister of Innovation, Science and Industry update this House on the historic announcement of Volkswagen setting shop in St. Thomas, Ontario, and what it means for job and investment for generations to come? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Minister of Innovation.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the colleague for the question. This is a great question. Actually, Mr. Speaker, it's a home run for Canada, Mr. Speaker. We've attracted a $7 billion investment. This is a home run for the community of St. Thomas and southwestern Ontario. This is a home run for auto workers in Canada. This is a home run for auto sector, Mr. Speaker. And unlike the Conservative in 2011, we don't let the sector go down. We invest in the sector, Mr. Speaker. We have attracted the first car manufacturer in 35 years and the first European. Let's celebrate, Mr. Speaker.
Order. Order. Before we go to the next question, I hear somebody shouting. I just want to remind the honourable members that they do have an earpiece and they can turn it up if they're having a hard time hearing. The honourable member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
So, Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has been saying for weeks that he built a wall between himself and the Trudeau family's taxpayer-funded foundations. New revelations now show that the Prime Minister didn't actually build the wall, that these claims are completely false. The Trudeau Foundation hosted a meeting inside the Prime Minister's own office with 5 deputy ministers. So what, was there a wall down the middle of the room or something? Canadians deserve a full investigation into political involvement and foreign interference into the Prime Minister's taxpayer-funded family foundation. Will the government allow that full investigation to take place?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the meeting in question was between public servants and the foundation. It did not involve the Prime Minister. It was in a building, yes, and there are many meetings that take place all over over Parliament Hill. And this is what's going on, Mr. Speaker, is again and again and again, they're looking for any way they can to connect this when no such connection exists. I've made it clear that no such connection exists. I will repeat that day in, day out, Mr. Speaker, and they'll continue to try with this.
Honourable member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Mr. Speaker, let's listen to the words that the Government House Leader actually used. He said, well, yes, it was in a building. Yeah, it was in a building. Well, you know what building it was? It was in the Prime Minister's own office. That's not just any building, Mr. Speaker. It's of some significance. If there was a meeting that took place in my office, and then I claimed I had no idea that people were using my office, how did they get in? Did I leave the key somewhere? Mr. Speaker, could the Government House Leader provide us with a more serious explanation? If the Prime Minister didn't know about this meeting, then how did the people get into his office?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
I'm not sure which building the member in. Maybe he's in Confederation, and now I know that he's aware of every meeting that takes place in Confederation, Mr. Speaker. I mean, come on. Let's be realistic here. The actual issue that is attempting to be...
When are we ready? Are we ready? The Honourable Government House Leader, you have 25 seconds left.
Mr. Speaker, the underlying assumption that comes again and again and again, and let's be very clear about what they're trying to do. They're trying to paint a picture that this government, and I think it's offensive to suggest that any Canadian government would allow a foreign government to interfere or help make decisions. It is absolutely ridiculous. It attacks one of the most fundamental tenets of our democracy that has each of us here, which is to protect our institutions, Mr. Speaker.
L'honorable député.
The Honourable Member for Mégantic-l'Érable. Mr. Speaker, to quote the Prime Minister himself, I made the decision 10 years ago to cut all ties with the Trudeau Foundation, and we've all respected that. Once again, it appears the Prime Minister has misled the House. We know his office was in contact with the Trudeau Foundation in 2016. We found out this morning that the Trudeau Foundation secured a meeting with the most influential deputy ministers of the new Liberal government just 6 months after it took office. If the Prime Minister is telling the truth, why was this meeting held in his own offices? The Honourable Minister of Canadian Heritage. Mr. Speaker, Chantal Hébert this morning said that there were 3 meetings in the Langevin building. I never met with the Prime Minister. It's entirely possible that the Prime Minister didn't even know that meeting with deputy ministers took place. So are they saying that Chantal Hébert is also part of the conspiracy? The Honourable Member for Mégantic-l'Érable. No, what I'm saying is do pass go and do collect $200. Apparently that's how the Trudeau Foundation saw the 2015 election. Donations from the regime in Beijing, access to the most important mandarins in the federal government, a jackpot for Liberal cronies. According to the media, the Prime Minister's been claiming for 3 weeks that there's a wall between him and the Trudeau Foundation, but no one imagined it was a gyprock wall within his own offices. There are many questions for the Prime Minister. Who requested the meeting? Who called the deputy ministers? Why was it held in the Prime Minister's building? And most importantly, who said yes to the Trudeau Foundation for this unprecedented access to the Prime Minister's top officials? The Honourable Government House Leader.
That protect our institutions. Let's talk about the CBC and Radio Canada. Let's talk about the fact that the leader of the opposition wants to work with large tech giants to destroy the walls that protect those foundations. Let's talk about the Bank of Canada, that he wishes to reach into the Bank of Canada, something that has been completely independent, protecting monetary and fiscal policy, to change the direction. And I wonder, Mr. Speaker, when he's given advice like cryptocurrency, would he apply that advice into the Bank of Canada and make the Bank of Canada listen to his political direction? Because it would have the same disastrous effect on all Canadians that it did on those that listened to his advice on cryptocurrency.
The Honourable Member for Salaberry-sur-Roi. Mr. Speaker, where is the Prime Minister in the labour dispute between his government and the public service? After a weekend of no progress, and with the situation destined to escalate, the Prime Minister must intervene personally. This was an official request from the union, and it's also in the interest of Quebecers, who have everything to lose by seeing this dispute drag on. Every hour that passes brings us further away from a desirable negotiated solution and closer to an escalation. Will the Prime Minister finally come to the table? The Honourable President of the Treasury Board. Mr. Speaker, we are at the table right now. We are bargaining with the union. A lot of progress has been made. There were hundreds of demands, and now we're down to just a handful. And we'll get there. So, Mr. Speaker, we will reach a deal that is fair and reasonable for all Canadians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Salaberry-sur-Roi. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has to get involved personally. According to the union, at this stage, he's the only one who can resolve some of the key issues. Mr. Speaker, if this dispute drags on, there are people who won't get their tax returns on time. There will be another passport crisis. Some people won't get their EI. And the conflict drags on because the Prime Minister is snubbing the bargaining table. When will he take responsibility? The Honourable President of the Treasury Board. Mr. Speaker, for 3 weeks now, we've been at mediation. We've been working tirelessly to renew the collective agreement so that it's fair, competitive, and reasonable. This round of bargaining has been difficult. As I said before, the union came with over 500 demands, and I'm happy to say that there's only a handful left on the bargaining table. We're working very hard. We will reach a deal soon, very soon, and we will keep making every effort to reach that deal. Thank you.
Nipissing Pembroke.
Mr. Speaker, 700 soldiers at Base Petawawa went without heat and water because the Prime Minister couldn't reach a deal with public servants. According to leaked documents, the Prime Minister secretly told our allies that he doesn't feel our military is important. Now Canadians know the truth. Under the Liberals, our women and men in uniform will never be considered a priority. The Prime Minister's residence would never go without heat and water. Why weren't heat and water deemed essential services for our Canadian Armed Forces?
Here. The Honourable Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the honourable member for the question. First of all, an agreement has been reached that allows the heating plant to resume operations and provide heating and hot water to those living at the garrison. And in terms of our commitment to the Canadian Armed Forces, Mr. Speaker, our defence spending is increasing, unlike the Conservatives who let defence spending dip below 1% when they were in power, Mr. Speaker. We invested $40 billion in NORAD modernization. Our defence spending is increasing by 70% under our current defence policy, and in our last budget, Mr. Speaker, we are increasing defence spending by $8 billion. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Selkirk Interlake Eastman.
That's called creative accounting. The Prime Minister's incompetency has caused the worst public service strike in decades and disproportionately hurting national defence. Our troops aren't being fed, have heat or hot water, or getting reimbursed for out-of-pocket meal expenses in places like Poland. It's said that an army marches on beans and bullets, and this incompetent Liberal government can't even get that right. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister doesn't consider the basic needs of our forces essential. He is literally leaving our troops in the cold and hungry. Why is that, Mr. Speaker?
The Honourable Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, it is somewhat surprising when the Conservatives let defence spending dip below 1% for my honourable colleagues to suggest that we are not paying attention to what we are rightfully focused on: increasing resources for the Canadian Armed Forces, increasing defence spending, ensuring that our forces have the equipment they need to fight forest fires and floods here at home, leading the Enhanced Forward Presence Battle Group in Latvia, making sure we are a leading donor to Ukraine in its time of need, contributing in the Middle East, Mr. Speaker. The list goes on, and we will always be here for the armed forces. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Chicoutimi-Le-Fjord. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is showing quite an incredible amount of incompetence, and once again, Canadians will pay the price. In 8 years, the cost of the public service has gone up by 50%, and all at the same time, they were unable to prevent this unprecedented strike. And there are soldiers on a base with no hot water and heating because of this government. Does the Prime Minister think that our soldiers deserve better for everything they do for our country? The Honourable Minister of the Environment. Mr. Speaker, I think a lot of Canadians would like to know what the Conservative members from Quebec what their position is on their leader's decision to cut funding to CBC Radio-Canada, because last week no Quebec Conservative would defend their leader's position. Where do they stand on this issue of cuts to the CBC? The Honourable Member for Châteauguay-Lacolle. Mr. Speaker, this week marks National Organ and Tissue Donor Awareness Week, which aims to raise awareness of the vital need to increase the number of donors across the country. Every year, hundreds of Canadians die while waiting for an organ transplant. Data from the Canadian Institute for Health Information shows that deceased donor rates in Canada went up by 42% from 2009 to 2018. Mr. Speaker, can the Minister of Health tell this House what our government is doing to improve organ donation and transplantation in Canada? The Honourable Minister of Health. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank my colleague from Châteauguay-Lacolle for her hard work and for her important question. Our government recognizes the value of organ and tissue donation and transplantation, and we have an important role to play in protecting the health and safety of Canadians in need of transplants and living donors. In cooperation with the provinces and territories and the various organizations working in the field, our government has improved the situation in Canada through the Organ Donation and Transplantation Collaboration Initiative. Today and every day this week, we encourage people to consider the possibility of choosing to become a living donor to help save a life. Thank you.
Quinty.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians pay the highest cell phone rates in the world, and in fact, Rogers customers pay the highest cell phone rates in Canada. The minister has stated that the Rogers-Shaw deal would alleviate those prices, but instead, in typical Liberal fashion, we're seeing it's only benefiting Liberal friends and donors while Canadians pay. Days after the announcement of the Rogers-Shaw merger, the former industry minister was appointed, and remember, he was responsible for reducing cell phone bills by 25% to the Rogers Board of Directors. Why is it always that Liberal friends and insiders benefit while Canadians have to pay?
The Honourable Minister of Innovation.
Mr. Speaker, I think my colleague is somehow missing the point, actually, Mr. Speaker. Who are winning are Canadians, Mr. Speaker. I so wish that for those who are watching at home, they should listen to people. Canadians have asked us to do one thing, Mr. Speaker, is to bring prices down in telcos. The way to do that in Canada, Mr. Speaker, is to more competition. The way to do that is to have a fourth national player. Mr. Speaker, we have imposed the longest series of conditions in Canada history to make sure that the telcos will deliver for Canadians as Canadians expect in their everyday life.
Member for Bay of Quinte.
Well, Mr. Speaker, if you believe that, then I actually have a Rogers cell phone plan to sell you. This Prime Minister promised in 2015 to reduce cell phone bills by 25%. In fact, last year announced in this House that they reduced cell phone bills by 25%, when the reality is that Canadians have never been cell phone bills so high since these Liberal bills have been in power. The former industry minister told Canadians he was going to negotiate with Rogers. Canadians didn't know he was just negotiating for a corner office at Rogers. Why are the Liberal insiders and friends always benefiting on the backs of hard-working Canadians?
Yeah. The Honourable Minister of Innovation.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians who are watching at home know these conservatives, Mr. Speaker. They know exactly that they're good to bring all these conspiracy theories. We've heard an hour of them today, Mr. Speaker. But one thing they know who they can trust to have their back, Mr. Speaker. It's this government. That's exactly what we've done, Mr. Speaker. That's why what they told us is to bring prices down for Canadians. They wanted more competition, Mr. Speaker. And the way to do that is to have a fourth national player.
I'm sorry, I'm struggling to hear the answer. If I can ask the minister to start over so I can hear the full response, please.
Mr. Speaker, we will take no lessons from these conservatives. Actually, they even asked me from Volkswagen, Mr. Speaker. Those are the conservatives who let the auto sector down in 2011. Those are the conservatives who let the good people of St. Thomas and Southwestern Ontario down, Mr. Speaker. Those are the conservatives who let 8,000 workers go down in 2011 in St. Thomas, Mr. Speaker. One thing Canadians have seen last last Friday is that we invest in people, we invest in our worker, we invest in Canada. That's what Confident Nation are doing, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for South Shore St. Margaret's.
DFO's Elver science is done on the East River Chester, the only river, and Elver harvesters have been begging DFO to monitor and enforce the law on that river, yet poaching is happening every night. I observed it for the last 3 nights personally during the open legal season, and since the closure, no one from DFO has been on that river. And if you can believe it, DFO enforcement called the license holder this morning proactively to say that they won't be monitoring the river for law enforcement breaches or for science. Why?
The Honourable Minister for Fisheries and Oceans.
Mr. Speaker. Well, let me be clear about what actually happened here, Mr. Speaker. DFO more than doubled the number of enforcement officers. We worked closely with the RCMP, and we made numerous arrests. We seized gear and unauthorized catches. And, Mr. Speaker, we closed down the fishery to protect public safety and conservation, but enforcement continues for the closed Elver fishery. So we are working to reduce the amount of illegal fishery, and we'll continue to do just that.
Hear, hear. Member for Scarborough Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. 10 years ago today, on April 24, 2013, the Rana Plaza factory in Bangladesh collapsed, killing 1,134 people and injuring even more. That incident, which brought to light the inhumane conditions in which many workers around the world still work in today, reminds us that we have a responsibility as world leaders to fight for the rights of workers everywhere, regardless of borders and distance. Can the Minister of Labour update us on the work that our government is doing to protect workers around the world on this sober anniversary?
The Honourable Minister of Labour.
Speaker, I want to thank the member for Scarborough Centre for the question. The Rana Plaza incident 10 years ago is a painful reminder about the absolute necessity for workers around the world to have fair pay and safe working conditions. Canada is working with the International Labour Organization and unions to champion the rights of workers. We've built labour conditions into our trade agreements because workers make trade possible, and they should reap the benefits of it. I went to Washington last year to launch Empower, a global initiative with the U.S. and other like-minded countries to support unions, to support workers' rights, and to eradicate forced labour in our supply chains. Thank you, Mr.
Speaker. The Honourable Member for Courtenay Alberni.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals have given more than $200 million to Deloitte for contracts within a single department in the last year alone. Wow. Now, we've learned that former Liberal and Conservative cabinet ministers are currently working for Deloitte. Oh. Public service workers have been left out in the rain asking for fair pay. Meanwhile, the Liberals have no problem giving massive multi-million-dollar contracts to their friends. People are fed up with the hypocrisy. Will the minister end this reckless government outsourcing and instead get a fair deal for public service workers?
The Honourable Minister for Procurement.
Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the member opposite for his question. As was clearly established at the Government Operations Committee earlier this year, there was absolutely no political interference in the contracts awarded, particularly to McKinsey. We are open and transparent as a government in the way that we award contracts, and we will continue to do so. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Spadina, Fort York.
Mr. Speaker, the situation in Sudan is rapidly deteriorating. Hundreds have been killed and thousands injured. Over 1,600 Canadians registered with Global Affairs Canada, but sadly, many more have not. Mr. Speaker, the fighting's intense. Food and water supplies are limited. Canada has evacuated its embassy and suspended consular services. We know Canada is trying to work out an evacuation plan with like-minded countries. Can the minister inform this House? How's that coming along? Advising people to shelter in place with no embassy, food, or water is not a viable solution.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to very much thank the honourable member for raising that important question. It took a long time today to get us out of the weeds and into a very life-threatening situation. The situation in Sudan is changing by the minute. The minister is in constant conversation with her counterparts around the world. I want to take a moment to thank our diplomats who have been courageous and working extremely hard. They have now been removed from the embassy. The embassy is closed. However, they continue to work to support both Canada's efforts at engaging in peace, as well as helping Canadians. If anyone has a Sudanese Canadian friend, please make sure they register with ROCA so that we can help them immediately. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I'm afraid that's all the time we have for question period today. It being 3:13, pursuant to order made on Thursday, June 23rd, 2022, the House will now proceed to the taking of the deferred recorded division on the motion at the second reading stage of Bill C-27. Convoquez les députés.
Call in the members.
The question is as follows. Monsieur Champagne.
Mr. Champagne, seconded by Mrs. Fortier, moved that Bill C-27, an act to enact the Consumer Privacy Protection Act, the Personal Information and Data Protection Tribunal Act, and the Artificial Intelligence and Data Act, and to make consequential and related amendments to other acts, be now read a second time and referred to the Standing Committee on Industry and Technology.
69.1. The first question is on parts 1 and 2, including the schedule to clause 2 of the bill. La période de 10 minutes pour.
The 10-minute period for members voting electronically has started. And the House will now proceed to the vote for members participating in person.
All those in favor of parts 1 and 2, including the schedule to clause 2 of the bill, will please rise.
Mr. Holland.
Mr. Holland.
Mr. Blair.
Mr. Blair.
Mr. O'Regan.
Mr. O'Regan.
Ms. Bennett.
Ms. Bennett.
Mr. Champagne.
Mr. Champagne.
Mr. Guilbeault.
Mr. Guilbeault.
Ms. Tassi.
Ms. Tassi.
Ms. Jazek.
Ms. Jazek.
Ms. Chagger.
Ms. Chagger.
Mr. McKay.
Mr. McKay.
Ms. Scrow.
Ms. Scrow.
Mr. Scarpaleggia.
Mr. Scarpaleggia.
Madame Saint-Onge.
Madame Saint-Onge.
Ms. Cara.
Ms. Cara.
Monsieur Vandal.
Monsieur Vandal.
Madame Fortier.
Madame Fortier.
Ms. Murray.
Ms. Murray.
Ms. Gould.
Ms. Gould.
Monsieur McKinnon-Gatineau.
Monsieur McKinnon-Gatineau.
Ms. Ing.
Ms. Ing.
Ms. Zarowitz.
Ms. Zarowitz.
Ms. Ian.
Ms. Ian.
Monsieur Miller.
Monsieur Miller.
Mr. Mendocino.
Mr. Mendocino.
Madame Le Boutillier.
Madame Le Boutillier.
Madame Bendayan.
Madame Bendayan.
Mr. Dhaliwal.
Mr. Dhaliwal.
Monsieur Serré.
Monsieur Serré.
Monsieur Arsenault.
Monsieur Arsenault.
Ms. Vandenbeld.
Ms. Vandenbeld.
Mr. Sheehan.
Mr. Sheehan.
Monsieur Sanson.
Monsieur Sanson.
Madame Brière.
Madame Brière.
Mr. Biddle.
Mr. Biddle.
Mr. Fillmore.
Mr. Fillmore.
Mr. Gerritsen.
Mr. Gerritsen.
Mrs. Romanado.
Mrs. Romanado.
Mr. Lamoureux.
Mr. Lamoureux.
Ms. Sahota.
Ms. Sahota.
Mr. Varani.
Mr. Varani.
Mr. Ananda Sangari.
Mr. Ananda Sangari.
Monsieur Lauzon.
Monsieur Lauzon.
Madame Lalonde.
Madame Lalonde.
Ms. Dillon.
Dillon.
Monsieur El Khoury.
Monsieur El Khoury.
Mr. Jauhari.
Mr. Johari.
Mr. Vancouverden.
Mr. Vancouverden.
Mr. Fisher.
Mr. Fisher.
Mr. Kuzmierczuk.
Mr. Kuzmierczuk.
Ms. O'Connell.
Ms. O'Connell.
Mr. Kellaway.
Mr. Kellaway.
Mr. Beach.
Mr. Beach.
Mr. May Cambridge.
Mr. May Cambridge.
Mr. Sidhu Brampton East.
Mr. Cedar Brampton East.
Mr. Badaway.
Mr. Badaway.
Mr. Batiste.
Mr. Batiste.
Mr. Fragascados.
Mr. Fragascados.
Mr. Chang.
Mr. Chang.
Monsieur Lightbound.
Monsieur Lightbound.
Mr. Longfield.
Mr. Longfield.
Mr. McKinnon, Coquitlam, Port Coquitlam.
Mr. McKinnon, Coquitlam, Port Coquitlam.
Mr. McLeod.
Mr. McLeod.
Mr. Morrissey.
Mr. Morrissey.
Madame Shanahan.
Madame Shanahan.
Ms. Sidhu Brampton South.
Ms. Cedar Brampton South.
Mrs. Zaid.
Mrs. Zayed.
Ms. Yip.
Ms. Yip.
Mrs. Atwin.
Mrs. Atwin.
Mr. Noor Mohammed.
Mr. Noor Mohammed.
Mr. Lewis Kitchener-Conestoga.
Mr. Lewis Kitchener-Conestoga.
Mr. Pulowski.
Mr. Pulowski.
Mr. Turnbull.
Mr. Turnbull.
Mr. Van Bynen.
Mr. Van Bynen.
Mr. Weiler.
Mr. Weiler.
Monsieur Zuberi.
Mr. Zuberi.
Mr. Ali.
Mr. Ali.
Mr. Chahal.
Mr. Shahal.
Madame Diab.
Madame Diab.
Mr. Gahir.
Mr. Gahir.
Mr. Hanley.
Mr. Hanley.
Ms. Hefner.
Ms. Hefner.
Madame Lapointe.
Madame Lapointe.
Mr. McDonald Malpeck.
Mr. McDonald Malpeck.
Mr. Meow.
Mr. Meow.
Mrs. Valdez.
Mrs. Valdez.
Mr. Sousa.
Mr. Sousa.
Monsieur Terrien.
Monsieur Terrien.
Monsieur Villemur.
Monsieur Villemur.
Madame de Bellefeuille.
Madame de Bellefeuille.
Monsieur Fortin.
Monsieur Fortin.
Monsieur Barsalou Duval.
Monsieur Barcelot Duval.
Madame Gaudreau.
Madame Gaudreau.
Madame Larouche.
Madame Larouche.
Monsieur Plamondon.
Monsieur Plamondon.
Madame Vignola.
Madame Vignola.
Monsieur Savard Tremblay.
Monsieur Savard Tremblay.
Monsieur Lemire.
Monsieur Lemire.
Madame Saint-Clair Degagné.
Madame Saint-Clair Degagné.
Monsieur Trudel.
Monsieur Trudel.
Madame Bérubé.
Madame Bérubé.
Monsieur Désilé.
Monsieur Désilé.
Mr. Julian.
Mr. Julian.
Mr. Massey.
Mr. Massey.
Mr. Cannings.
Mr. Cannings.
Ms. Kwan.
Ms. Kwan.
Mr. Garrison.
Mr. Garrison.
Ms. Blaney.
Ms. Blaney.
Ms. Idlout.
Ms. Idlout.
Mr. Johns.
Mr. Johns.
Mr. McGregor.
Mr. McGregor.
Ms. Gazan.
Ms. Gazan.
Ms. Barron.
Ms. Barron.
Madame Hughes.
Madame Hughes.
Ms. Zarillo.
Ms. Zarillo.
Monsieur Bouleris.
Monsieur Bouleris.
Mr. Angus.
Mr. Angus.
Mr. Davies.
Mr. Davies.
Ms. Matheson.
Ms. Matheson.
Mr. Desjardins.
Mr. Desjardins.
Ms. McPherson.
Ms. McPherson.
Mr. Blakey.
Mr. Blakey.
Ms. May, Saanich Gulf Islands.
Ms. May, Saanich Gulf Islands.
Mr. Morris.
Mr. Morris.
Mr. Vong.
Mr. Vong.
All those opposed to parts 1 and 2, including the schedule to clause 2 of the bill, will please rise.
Mr. Scheer.
Mr. Scheer.
Mr. Doherty.
Mr. Doherty.
Mr. Bazan.
Mr. Bazan.
Mr. Kimmich.
Mr. Kimmich.
Mrs. Thomas.
Mrs. Thomas.
Mr. Deltel.
Mr. Deltel.
Mrs. Stubbs.
Mrs. Stubbs.
Mr. Workington.
Mr. Workington.
Mr. Hallan.
Mr. Hallan.
Ms. Lewis Haldeman Norfolk.
Ms. Lewis Haldeman Norfolk.
Ms. Dancho.
Ms. Dancho.
Mr. Barlow.
Mr. Barlow.
Mrs. Gray.
Mrs. Gray.
Mr. Moore.
Mr. Moore.
Mr. Baldinelli.
Mr. Baldinelli.
Mr. Mazer.
Mr. Mazer.
Mr. Lewis Essex.
Mr. Lewis Essex.
Mr. Jennis.
Mr. Jennis.
Mr. Seaback.
Mr. Seaback.
Mr. Ellis.
Mr. Ellis.
Mr. Stewart.
Mr. Stewart.
Monsieur Berthold.
Monsieur Berthold.
Mr. Duncan Stormont Dundas South Glengarry.
Mr. Duncan Stormont Dundas South Glengarry.
Ms. Findley.
Ms. Findley.
Mr. Abu Taif.
Mr. Abu Taif.
Mr. Chong.
Mr. Chong.
Mrs. Kuzi.
Mrs. Kuzi.
Mr. Barrett.
Mr. Barrett.
Ms. Ferrari.
Ms. Ferrari.
Mr. Vidal.
Mr. Vidal.
Mr. Perkins.
Mr. Perkins.
Mr. Davidson.
Mr. Davidson.
Mr. Kelly.
Mr. Kelly.
Mr. Calkins.
Mr. Calkins.
Ms. Rood.
Ms. Rood.
Mr. Cooper.
Mr. Cooper.
Monsieur Martel.
Monsieur Martel.
Ms. Gladue.
Ms. Gladue.
Mrs. Roberts.
Mrs. Roberts.
Mr. Williams.
Mr. Williams.
Mr. Melillo.
Mr. Melillo.
Mrs. Cramp-Nyman.
Mrs. Cramp-Nyman.
Mr. Chambers.
Mr. Chambers.
Mrs. Block.
Mrs. Block.
Mr. Van Popta.
Mr. Van Popta.
Mr. Lobb.
Mr. Lobb.
Mr. Kitchen.
Mr. Kitchen.
Mr. Muse.
Mr. Muse.
Mr. Redicott.
Mr. Redicott.
Mr. Brock.
Mr. Brock.
Mr. Waugh.
Mr. Waugh.
Mr. Steinley.
Mr. Steinley.
Monsieur Lou.
Monsieur Lou.
Mr. Tucker.
Mr. Tucker.
Mrs. Falk, Battleford's Lloydminster.
Mrs. Falk, Battleford's Lloydminster.
Mr. Morantz.
Mr. Morantz.
Mr. Arnold.
Mr. Arnold.
Monsieur Brassard.
Mr. Brassard.
Mr. Williamson.
Mr. Williamson.
Ms. Rempel Garner.
Ms. Rempel Garner.
Mr. Cram.
Mr. Cram.
Mrs. Wagenthal.
Mrs. Wagenthal.
Mr. Dreeshen.
Mr. Dreeshen.
Mr. Couric.
Mr. Couric.
Monsieur Godin.
Mr. Godin.
Mr. Nader.
Mr. Nader.
Mr. Tolmie.
Mr. Tolmie.
Mr. Allison.
Mr. Allison.
Mr. Carey.
Mr. Carey.
Mr. McLean.
Mr. McLean.
Mrs. Gallant.
Mrs. Gallant.
Mr. Shipley.
Mr. Shipley.
Mr. Generou.
Mr. Generou.
Mr. Patzer.
Mr. Patzer.
Mr. Macaulay, Edmonton West.
Mr. Macaulay, Edmonton West.
Mr. Falk, Provencher.
Mr. Falk, Provencher.
Mr. Lake.
Mr. Lake.
Monsieur d'Entremont.
Mr. d'Entremont.
Mr. Morrison.
Mr. Morrison.
Mr. Dowdle.
Mr. Dowdle.
Mr. Dalton.
Mr. Dalton.
Mr.
Bragdon.
Bragdon.
Mr. Bragdon.
Mr. Epp.
Mr. Epp.
Mr. Motts.
Mr. Motts.
Mr. Weber.
Mr. Weber.
Mr. Soroka.
Mr. Soroka.
Mr. Ruff.
Mr. Ruff.
Mr. Shields.
Mr. Shields.
Mr. Fast.
Mr. Fast.
La Chambre.
The House will now wait for the electronic voting period to end before resuming its proceedings.
I wish to inform the House that the electronic voting period has ended.
If members were not able to vote due to technical difficulties, they may now use the raise hand function, and the chair will recognize them.
Fonseca.
I vote yay, Mr. Speaker.
Fonseca, yay pour.
That's it. Le bureau va maintenant.
The table will now compile the results of the vote.
Yeas pour 205, 205. Nays contre 109, 109.
I declare parts 1 and 2, including the schedule to clause 2 of the bill, carried. The next question is on part 3 of the bill. La période de 10 minutes.
The 10-minute period.
Not much to dispense. La période de 10 minutes.
The 10-minute period for members voting electronically has started, and the House will now proceed to the vote for members participating in person.
All those in favor of Part 3 of the bill will please rise.
Mr. Holland.
Mr. Holland.
Mr. Blair.
Mr. Blair.
Mr. O'Regan.
Mr. O'Regan.
Ms. Bennett.
Ms. Bennett.
Monsieur Champagne.
Monsieur Champagne.
Monsieur Guilbeault.
Monsieur Guilbeault.
Ms. Tassi.
Ms. Tassi.
Ms. Jazik.
Ms. Jazik.
Mr. McKay.
Mr. McKay.
Ms. Scrow.
Ms. Scrow.
Mr. Scarpaleggia.
Mr. Scarpaleggia.
Mr. Casey.
Mr. Casey.
Madame Saint-Onge.
Saint-Onge.
Ms. Cara.
Ms. Cara.
Monsieur Vandal.
Mr. Vandal.
Madame Fortier.
Madame Fortier.
Ms. Murray.
Ms. Murray.
Ms. Gould.
Ms. Gould.
Monsieur McKinnon-Gatineau.
Monsieur McKinnon-Gatineau.
Ms. Ing.
Ms. Ing.
Ms. Zarowitz.
Ms. Zarowitz.
Monsieur Miller.
Monsieur Miller.
Mr. Mendocino.
Mr. Mendocino.
Madame Le Boutillier.
Madame Le Boutillier.
Madame Bendayan.
Madame Bendayan.
Mr. Dhaliwal.
Mr. Dhaliwal.
Monsieur Serré.
Monsieur Serré.
Monsieur Arsenault.
Monsieur Arsenault.
Ms. Vandenbeld.
Ms. Vandenbeld.
Mr. Sheehan.
Mr. Sheehan.
Monsieur Sanson.
Monsieur Sanson.
Madame Brière.
Madame Brière.
Mr. Biddle.
Mr. Biddle.
Mr. Fillmore.
Mr. Fillmore.
Mr. Gerritsen.
Mr. Gerritsen.
Mrs. Romanado.
Mrs. Romanado.
Mr. Lamoureux.
Mr. Lamoureux.
Ms. Sahota.
Ms. Sahota.
Mr. Varani.
Mr. Varani.
Mr. Ananda Sangari.
Mr. Ananda Sangari.
Monsieur Lauzon.
Monsieur Lauzon.
Madame Lalonde.
Madame Lalonde.
Ms. Dillon.
Ms. Dillon.
Monsieur El Khoury.
Monsieur El Khoury.
Mr. Jauhari.
Mr. Jauhari.
Mr. Vancouverden.
Mr. Vancouverden.
Mr. Fisher.
Mr. Fisher.
Mr. Kuzmierczuk.
Mr. Kuzmierczuk.
Ms. O'Connell.
Ms. O'Connell.
Mr. Kellaway.
Mr. Kellaway.
Mr. Beach.
Mr. Beach.
Mr. May Cambridge.
Mr. May Cambridge.
Mr. Cedu Brampton East.
Mr. Cedu Brampton East.
Mr. Badaway.
Mr. Badaway.
Mr. Batiste.
Mr. Batiste.
Mr. Fragiscatos.
Mr. Fragiscatos.
Mr. Chang.
Mr. Chang.
Monsieur Lightbound.
Monsieur Lightbound.
Mr. Longfield.
Mr. Longfield.
Mr. McKinnon Coquitlam for Coquitlam.
Mr. McKinnon Coquitlam for Coquitlam.
Mr. McLeod.
Mr. McLeod.
Mr. Morrissey.
Mr. Morrissey.
Madame Shanahan.
Madame Shanahan.
Mrs. Zaid.
Mrs. Zaid.
Ms. Yip.
Ms. Yip.
Mrs. Atwin.
Mrs. Atwin.
Mr. Noor Mohammed.
Mr. Noor Mohammed.
Mr. Lewis Kitchener-Conestoga.
Mr. Lewis Kitchener-Conestoga.
Mr. Pulowski.
Mr. Pulowski.
Mr. Turnbull.
Mr. Turnbull.
Mr. Van Bynen.
Mr. Van Bynen.
Monsieur Zuberi.
Monsieur Zuberi.
Mr. Ali.